This is CaneSport's Inside the Lines with 40-year publisher of CaneSport.com, Gary Ferman. CaneSport.com is the top authority of Miami Hurricanes football, and we are going to talk a lot of Miami Hurricanes football throughout the entire 2020 season. And I'm not used to Gary saying Miami Hurricanes football. I always talk about the Canes, I talk about the Hurricanes. Sometimes I say Miami, so I got to get used to saying Miami Hurricanes football. But anyway, the bottom line is it's football. Aren't you
Football.
excited?
Oh my God. I mean, this is the longest off season I can ever remember. I mean, you dated me, Greg. You had to say 40 years, but yeah, I mean, it's been 40 years of covering the Hurricanes, and this is absolutely the longest off season that I've ever had in my life. I mean, when you look at the way Miami finished the year last year, how difficult that was to first cover and then deal with because you couldn't just pretend that it didn't happen. I mean, it was an absolute train wreck at the end of the season last year, and so that was tough. Having to be blunt and point out the different things that might be wrong with the program, and then to go through this whole coronavirus thing and not having a spring practice, not knowing if there's going to be a football season, but still having to cover the team like there is a football season. And now here we are. We have a football season. So yeah, it's been very interesting. Certainly one of the more interesting off seasons of my career. But yes, I'm very happy that we're playing football on Thursday night.
Well, let's before we get into and again, the name of the show is basically right on what we're going to be doing, and that is we're going to get inside the lines, the information, the injuries, the trends, the stats, everything that is going to make it not only enjoyable for you to watch, but if you want to gamble on it, if you're into fantasy college football, whatever the case may be, that's why we have Gary on here because again, 40 years, you should say it with pride, Gary.
No, it means I'm getting old, Greg.
It is.
So
Yeah, I know. I hear you.
every year that goes by,
I
it's
know.
it's less
It's less
something to brag
prideful and
about. I'll
more.
tell
Yeah,
you
I know.
that.
I know. All right. Yeah. 30 years was okay. 20 years is actually good, but the 40
Right.
years, oh my God. Now
Now
okay.
now it's oh my
But
God.
then
Yeah.
again, you
No.
could say you started the Cane Sport publication when you were 8 years old. You were ahead of your time. What are you gonna say? All right.
Well, and certainly the last 17 years of Miami football have kind of aged me a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
It's been very tough to see not just the difficulty of covering the team through some of these tough times, but the disappointment in the fans. I feel for the fans. I mean, Miami has arguably one of the more passionate fan bases in the country. It's not as big
True.
as most schools out there. It's a small private school in Coral Gables, but the people that are fans, I mean, it's their life, and it's just been so difficult for everybody to go through this 17-year period because we're coming from a place where it looked like Miami was going to be playing for national championships almost every single year, and obviously that has not been the case. The program has not been the same for 17 years, so now we come into this new cycle here, and the great thing about football is you always get to hit the reset button. And I got to give Manny Diaz an absolute A+ for the way he's handled this offseason. I mean, not just in dealing with the coronavirus, but so many coaches. And Greg, you've really, like me, have been around football for so long, and so many coaches are in such denial when they have problems, and they kind of like go into a shell. They hide from the criticism. They don't look inwardly and admit their flaws. Well, Manny Diaz has done none of that. Okay, and he obviously got his butt kicked last year in his first year as a head coach, and from the minute he got back from Shreveport, where they lost 14-0 to Louisiana Tech, he started attacking his problems one by one, and he got himself a new offensive coordinator. It's not necessarily that Rhett Lashley is a better football coach than Dan Enos. So I'm not sure we could say that right now in either direction, but he's different, and it's more along the lines of what people have been looking for in this modern day of Miami football and the way they play high school football in South Florida. So whether the plays are better, I think is kind of irrelevant. The bottom line is people are going to think the plays are better, and it's just jump started the whole mindset around the program, and then they go out together and they get the Eric
Oh
King,
yeah,
who's
huge, huge.
huge. I
Yes,
mean, that's program transformational, in my opinion, based on what I've seen so far. I should say potentially program
sure.
transformational. So and then they just kept going on from there. They went and got other transfers. They got themselves a right tackle who's better than anybody they had. They got a defensive end from Temple who gave them depth initially, and now they really need them because Greg Rousseau decided to opt out this year. They got themselves a kicker after having, losing arguably 2 or 3 games last year because they couldn't kick simple field goals and extra points. They got themselves a transfer kicker that they now feel that has solved that problem. So if you did not have these moves that Manny Diaz has made, Greg, you might be sitting here with me right now. We might be saying, "Man, this Miami team might not win more than 4 games this year."
Yeah,
But but that's not the case. These moves have really provided a great deal of hope.
and I think it's great for college football, the whole transfer rule, and I think that it's possible we might get to a point real soon where if a player wants to transfer, he'll be eligible to transfer that year. I know there's still restrictions, and I get it, but uh, I think it's great, and I know it would be a weak thing if, let's say, Trevor Lawrence graduates Clemson, and then, or like we've seen with Oklahoma, and then the next great quarterback decides, "Oh, I'm going to Clemson." I spent 3 years with this other school in this smaller conference, but now I'm going to go to the big school and win a big championship. So yeah, it does happen in the weak side, but I think there are so many other teams that are trying to get better, like Miami, and to bring in a player like King is such a huge deal. Without, I mean, if like you said, if he can play up to his capability, I mean, you're talking about potentially a 3 or 4 win difference.
No doubt. I mean, I totally agree with you on that. But on the whole transfer thing, I think everybody better fasten their seatbelts
Yes.
because it's going to get insane. You're going to have literal free agency in
Yep.
college football, and if we thought that potential cheating in recruiting was a problem with kids coming out of high school. I can only imagine what it's going to become like now that you're talking about kids that are a little bit more physically developed, that have a little bit more of a resume,
Uh-huh.
so to speak. And I think that it's a slippery slope for sure. I mean,
Sure.
right now it's working because it's so new, but and it works for a guy like the Eric King. He's going from Houston and he's going on to a bigger stage. And in a sense, he's doing it with an offensive coordinator that's doing the same thing. I mean, Rhett Lashley a few years back was at Auburn. Things went a little south with Gus Malzahn, so he had to go get his career back on track. He had to go to UConn first, and then he went to SMU. Well, now he lands this Miami offensive coordinator job. This is his moment, in his career to get back on the big stage.
Yep.
So he's got a lot on the line. The Eric King as a quarterback has a lot on the line. So it was a great marriage and it's working great. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this evolves in the years forward when you have other schools trying to poach your players and things like that. And I feel really bad for the programs that like Houston that had a De'Ara
Sure.
King
Sure.
that had a Jared Williams playing right tackle, and Miami was able to come in and snag him away. And that's obviously going to become the way of the future
Yep.
for until somebody changes it in college football, and it's going to be really, really interesting, Greg.
Absolutely. And by the way, the Temple transfer, I just want to get, do you pronounce his name Roach or Roche?
Roche,
Roche.
Richie
Okay, now
Roche.
because he's got 26 sacks over 3 years, 39 and a half tackles for loss. And I remember I was pretty sure Rutgers was in the running for Roche. So I followed him just as much as I followed King, of course. But anyway, that's like you said with Rousseau out. And I do have to ask you about Rousseau. He was a redshirt freshman last year, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
so is he
but
eligible for the draft next year?
yes, this is year 3. He is eligible for
That's
the
that's
draft.
that's still unique, isn't it? Not too
Yeah,
many redshirt sophomores when they leave college go to the NFL.
No, but this guy, I really think he made the right decision. As much as I hate that, what it's, the impact that it potentially could have on the Hurricane football team. you know, nobody knows where this season is going. Nobody knows if they're going to get 11 games in. Nobody knows if there's going to be championships at the end of the year. The Miami athletic director, Blake James, said last week that he would consider it a win if they played 8 games this year. When you consider everything that's been going on, some teams might end up developing COVID problems to where they have to not play in a given week.
Sure.
There's an endless number of things that could happen here. And if you're Greg Rousseau and the NFL is already projecting you as a top 10 pick in April, why go risk injury? Why go risk getting COVID? His mom's a nurse. She was probably very nervous about it. She's seeing what's going on every day in the hospitals and stuff. And I think for him, he made the best decision. Other guys around college football that are making the same decision, I'm not as convinced that they are making the right decision because they don't have the Greg Rousseau resume and maybe future carved out the way he did. But I felt that he really did the right thing for himself.
Okay, so that those are the major changes or the additions or even subtractions for Miami's football team. Defensive coordinator. What could you tell me about Blake Baker?
He's back, once
Does
again,
he
and
run the defense, or is this Manny Diaz's defense?
I think they do it together. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, when you have a head coach that's been a defensive coordinator for 20 years, he's not totally handing over the reins.
uh,
And there was a point last year when the defense maybe wasn't playing as well as everybody would have liked, that Manny maybe got involved a little bit more. And you can argue back and forth whether that was fair to Blake Baker or not. But I think they've got a good working relationship. They've known each other for a long time. They have mutual respect, and I think that as long as things are going well, it's Blake Baker's show. But the head coach always has the
sure.
right
Oh
to
yeah,
step in if he feels like he needs
and he
to.
should too if he needs to, and that's how that was his calling card. So we got the job. And I think sometimes, and I get why sometimes head coaches do decide, all right, I was hired to be a head coach, not a coordinator. That was what I did. That's fine. It's what I know, but I need to be able to not delegate everything. I need to be a little bit more hands on, at least early in my career. Other coaches are different. They're like, hey, you know what? I need to be hands on a little bit more. I want that experience as a head coach. But if I do see the area of my team, which is my specialty, and I see there's something wrong with it, then I need to take control of that because I feel that I'm the one that can make it better. And that's why I can understand both sides of the coin when new head coaches decide what they're going to do and how they're going to handle things.
Well, I look back to the Randy Shannon era when he was the head coach of Miami, and I always felt that one of the bigger mistakes that Randy made as he got past year one when things weren't working really well was he didn't take over the defense himself. I mean, he was a national championship defensive coordinator, and I know that being a head coach is different, and you have so many other responsibilities. But if you don't have the budget to go out and get a top tier guy, which he didn't, Miami didn't give him the resources for that, and you finally get your head coaching opportunity, and it's going down the tubes because your coordinators aren't good enough. I think that you have to grab the bull by the horns and take charge of it yourself. And he never did that, and he only lasted 4 years as a head coach at Miami. And I think it might have been different had he chosen to do that.
Okay. Now, I do need to ask you about the top player to keep an eye on because name recognition wise, and I'm not talking about transfers, but Brevin Jordan, considering this is still kind of tight end uh, Brevin Jordan seems to be the talented type of old school Miami tight end that we need to keep an eye on. Maybe the latest was in Joku, but we always got whenever we see a talented tight end at Miami, our eyes need to bulge up and wow, maybe we got something here. So is Brevin Jordan, even though we didn't have the year we wanted, and a lot had to do with quarterback play, is Brevin Jordan, is he the real deal?
I'll say he is with an asterisk. I don't feel that Brevin Jordan has done as much in college football as probably Brevin Jordan thinks he's done, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm hearing, oh, he might go pro after this year, things like that. I think he's got to put up full season together and be an impact player before he starts thinking like that, or he's going to be the latest in the long line of Miami football players lately who have made premature decisions to go to the NFL draft and ended up regretting it. He's a very good athlete. He has to prove to everybody that he's an elite athlete, and I don't feel he's done that yet. I think he's going to be a very good player. I think he's going to thrive in Rhett Lashley's offense. But I would caution: don't forget about his position mate, Will Mallory. At that spot, also, I think Will Mallory is going to command a lot of snaps. He's had a great training camp. He's a bigger, taller, more prototypical type tight end. Brevin is more like an H back
Okay.
type of a tight end. I mean, he can block also, but I would compare him to Chris Herndon maybe if you wanted to compare him to players in the past. So look, I mean, Brevin Jordan's a very good football player, and he's got great potential. I just want to see it for 11 games. I want to see him impact the result
Yep.
on Saturdays this year, and I'm not sure that he has done that yet to the degree that maybe he or people around him would like to think. I think just some of this NFL talk has gotten a little bit ahead of itself. Let's see a solid big time football season this year from Brevin Jordan, and then take a look at where he stands in the NFL draft. I think if he went into the draft now, maybe third or fourth rounder.
Okay. And Chris Herndon, by the way, if he can stay healthy and out of trouble, could have a huge year and become a huge part of the New York Jets because
No,
I was
no
shocked
question.
how good he was as a rookie. I mean, boy, did he play lights out as a rookie. I didn't expect it. So yeah, again, just showing how much talent the Canes have adopted down there at the tight end position. So just keep an eye on Chris Herndon. No doubt about it. Here for you Miami Hurricane fans, you should remember what would you say, Chris Herndon, if you compared him to the recent tight ends? How good was he? Like David Njoku and some of those other recent ones.
Well, they were just different. Njoku was more of like a finesse tight end. He was almost like a receiver lining up a tight end, and a freak athlete. Herndon didn't have his physical skills, but probably had more tight end skills
Okay.
to call upon, and was always reliable. I mean, very reliable. His success at the pro level has not surprised me at all. I mean, he was a guy that showed up every single week, and a guy that you knew you could count on.
All right, now that's in the books, and every week we are going to kind of start now, and that is we're going to talk about what's going on during 2020. Might take a look a little bit about what happened in the previous week's games, especially not only for Miami but their opponent. And their opponent this week is UAB. Now, UAB, for the Power Five fan, they don't have the cachet. We get it. But you're talking about a program in the group of five that it's been one of the best stories really over the last few years with Bill Clark. I'm shocked Bill Clark hasn't been. I mean, when I look around every year, or the last couple of years, I should say, at head coaching opportunities, I'm just shocked I don't see Bill Clark's name in there. I see a bunch of other names of coaches that I don't think are as good as Bill Clark. But Bill Clark has done a fantastic job with a program that was dead 3 years ago, just dead after the 2014 season. And I mean, he has resurrected this program to one of the top teams in Conference USA. They've averaged 8.5 wins since he's been there. This will be his fifth year. They have 18 returning starters. They get their quarterback returning, and they also get Spencer Brown returning. Brown was on his way to a fantastic career a couple of years ago. Last year, didn't have the impact. I don't know if it was he gained a little weight, he had some injury issues, and when you're a big guy and you have some injury issues, he's not one of those shifty juke kite backs. He's a power back. But if he's off to a good start already this year, over 100 yards in their win over Central Arkansas. But this is not an easy opponent for Miami. UAB is again one of the better group of five teams that they're going to face.
Greg, it's the perfect opponent, though. Like to me, if you're going to play Wagner or
Yeah,
something
it's a
this
waste of
week,
time. Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. It's a waste of time. This is a football team that didn't have spring practice, so this is this team can walk and chew gum, and I think that's good for the Hurricanes, who are going to have to dive head first into a conference schedule after this. So I like it. I think that you talked about the success of the program under Bill Clark, and I think it's indicative of the type of talent that's in that region of the country.
Oh yeah.
That that he's been able to put this type of team together. They were 9-5 last year. But one thing that jumps out to me was that among those 9 victories was a 20-14 victory over Louisiana Tech, which then came to the bowl game and was not overwhelmed by Miami. I mean, I don't think Miami was into the game
Yeah, that
and showed.
happens. Yep.
Yeah, they didn't show up in any way. But they did beat Louisiana Tech 20-14, which beat Miami 14-0 the last time we've seen Miami play. So I like the fact that Miami has a bit of a challenge here, that they have to get themselves ready to go play a real football game, and that UAB can challenge them a little bit and get them ready for what's coming very quickly in the rest of the season.
Now, what UAB has been really good at, especially when, even though it's been a few years now that they're back to playing FBS football, that just the fact that being that underdog, and as an underdog, they have been a great spread team. That's been different though when they are in the favorite role or when they really go into the dog role and step up in competition to play the Power Five schools. And if we just take a look at it under Clark, you go back again. This is even in the first year, 2014, and then they missed. They were out of school for a couple of years. So this is just under Clark. They have played 5 Power Five schools. They have not won any of them. They've only covered one of them, which was the first Power Five school Bill Clark played. So they've dropped 4 straight covers and never won a Power Five game by an average margin of 199-85. So they have
Wow.
been thoroughly beaten by these Power Five schools, the Mississippi States, the Tennessees, those types of schools. And that just, see, what that tells me also is see, I think sometimes people will go, well, they're overrated. No, I think what it shows you is Bill Clark is still a really good coach because he doesn't have the talent. He's able to squeeze every bit of talent when they're playing the lesser, group of 5 teams. But then when you have to play the big boys, he just doesn't have the talent. And the spread is only 14 points. And I'm sorry, but we don't know what's going to happen with Miami because we haven't seen him yet. But if De'Aaron King plays the way we anticipate he's going to play, this is a Power Five team with Power Five kids, and they're at home. Say what you want about fans, they're still at home. Fact is, though, I'd be surprised if Miami didn't cover this game.
Yeah, I mean, based on what you're saying, it could be one of the steals of the college football season. So, but it's an opening game,
Yes,
and
you
I
never
think that's
know.
a factor. I think
Yes,
that I think Vegas takes that into consideration.
absolutely.
Miami's got a new offense that they've never put on the field in a game. They didn't even have a spring practice,
That's right.
so they have a new offense. It's only been tested by a couple inter squad scrimmages with very minimal one-on-one work. Uh, so they could have some growing pains offensively here in the early part of the season. I wouldn't be the least bit surprising. Just getting the timing down and everything. You could try to replicate game day timing on
Yeah,
the
it's not the
practice
same.
field.
Yeah,
No, it's not the
and
same.
UAB played their
Uh,
game last week.
and UAB had a game last week,
Yeah,
yeah. So they've had a chance to get their feet wet a little bit, and you go position by position athletically, that they probably don't match up, or at least you hope they don't match up
yeah,
with Miami. Even though I don't think Miami has an enormous amount of impact talent, Greg. Again, this year, it's been a big problem for this program in that Miami football is always going to be good, but the program just hasn't had the level of impact players
yeah,
that it's known for in recent history. And you get a sprinkling here, you get a Greg Rousseau here who shines for a year or
yeah.
so, but you don't have the big time players that you got took for granted in the past, and that kind of has a tendency to level the playing field for Miami in games that they play, and not just in the ACC, but they were life or death to beat Central Michigan last year, as well as losing to FIU and losing to Louisiana
That's
Tech.
right.
So. So that that's what happens, and I think the wise guys out in Vegas, they're not dumb,
Nope.
and I'm sure that they're factoring that in when they set that line.
Well, I'll give you one that actually, a couple of reasons why I think it does make more sense. First of all, and this is just one of those trendy things, I don't think it means a whole lot, but UAB gave up 35 points last week. They have covered 5 straight games as a dog after allowing 35 or more points. So
Wow.
5 straight on the but I think when we're looking at trends that really do make you realize that Vegas knows what they're doing. Okay. Manny Diaz, year 1, 3-6 straight up as an FBS favorite, 2-7 against the spread as an FBS favorite. That's not
Wow.
good. Last year, 1-3 straight up and against the spread versus non-conference FBS teams, and 0-3 against the spread as a favorite. And then you could even look at Miami 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 as a favorite versus non-conference FBS foes. There's a lot of bad there for Miami as well, and that probably is the reason why you're seeing the line only at 14 points.
But let me ask you something. Like, you've done this for a long time, Greg, and you go deep inside these numbers, and do a great job crunching it out and all that. But um, how big of a factor is that when you are coming into a new season here? So many changes at Miami. Things are different. Do those trends tend to hold up, or do they become less relevant?
I think, well, the reason why I started off talking about Bill Clark and his matter of fact, not only did we talk about the bad situation for UAB when they step up a competition, but also if you look at this last year when they beat Akron on the road, it was the first time they won a road opener under Bill Clark. Those are the types of trends that I do gravitate more towards. Manny Diaz is still so new, and then you have COVID in year 2. I don't think, and then you throw in its grad transfer. These things just don't these things
Yeah.
haven't happened before, and it's such an impact player that there's so many different variables that's why if I was looking at this game, I would pick Miami because I'm not concerned with what they did last year under Manny Diaz year 1. They add in Derek King. I know they're better players than UAB players. That's just fact. And I look at Bill Clark. He doesn't seem to do very well in in road openers for whatever reason. He doesn't necessarily do well when they step up in Power 5 competition. Those are 4 or 5 year stretches early on in the season that matter to me more than some of these other trends.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what you're saying. I mean, I personally I look at it and I throw there's not a trend I wouldn't just throw in the garbage this week because of everything that's gone on during the off season and all the changes and newness and all that. I do think that Miami might take a little time to get into a rhythm, and it might not be as easy as maybe it should be. But I would be surprised if we're not sitting here on Friday looking at a a solid Miami win that covers that 14-point spread.
I agree. Before I let you go, Gary, any injuries that we need to keep an eye on for Miami?
No, not that we're aware of. The depth chart came out this week. It looked pretty much as expected. So Manny Diaz said they're healthy, ready to go, and it's time to
So
play
far, so
football.
good. Excellent.
Yeah,
All right. Now,
yep.
talk about CaneSport.com. And that's obviously something we'll do every week as well. You can get a free 30 days. You can see that on the ticker there, the code Miami30. But why would anybody even want to try out CaneSport.com for the first time?
Well, I mean, if you're a Miami Hurricane fan, there's nobody that covers the program the way we do. When you look at everything that's going on with the team, with recruiting, off the field, alumni, our shows that we get the fans involved. This new show with you where we're going to dive, deep inside some of the numbers and trends and different aspects of football as it pertains to the team. We try to just give everybody anything that they would want. And we've done it for a long time. We've got a great community of fans that we've built up through the years that are on our website. A phenomenal message board with a lot of really knowledgeable posters. A few of them. I won't mention any names. A few of them get a little out of control at
uh
times, and we have to poke them a little bit and
huh.
say, "Hey, come on," But no, I mean, these are we got a community of football fans that just love interacting with each other every single day. We've even created a message board for them where they could fight about politics if they want and things like
Oh
that. So
no.
yeah, it's ugly. It's absolutely brutal. Every
Oh
now and
yeah,
then
I
I
can
got to say,
imagine.
I got to just plead with them. Come on, guys. It's like keep it keep it somewhat
Right.
under control. But no, it's a lot of fun for everybody, and that's the intention of it. And I encourage anybody that's a Miami fan out there, or even just a football fan that's looking for a team to adopt, come to CaneSport.com, take advantage of our 30-day free trial, and see if you know like hanging out for a while. I think you will.
Okay, who's next? Who are we talking about next for Miami?
Boy, I got to double check it. I think it's Louisville. I think the
I
next
know the
game's at.
schedules, I had to put so many I had to track when these conferences are starting and the schedules that are in the magazines or even some of them online don't even compute. It's like it's crazy with what's going on, and that's why I had to ask you because I'm like I'm not even sure. I have to make positively sure who
Yeah,
Miami's playing
yeah,
next week.
we're at Louisville a week from Saturday.
First road game at Louisville, and they have a new coach. Actually, second year, right?
Well,
Second
it's
year
his
for
second year,
Satterfield,
yeah,
right? At Satterfield,
yeah, and he's a really good
he is.
coach. He's a really good coach, Greg, and I think we'll have a lot to talk about
Yep,
next week about that game. That's going to be a really interesting early season game and a very tough test for Miami
no question. That they
going up
better
to
play
Louisville.
well this week because if not, then they're gonna have to really step it up next week.
Yeah, they're gonna have to score points, and we'll talk about it more next week. But it's gonna take a really good offensive day to win that game up there. And the question that we'll be dealing with, and we'll have to see how things go on Thursday night. But one of the things we'll definitely be discussing and dealing with next week is. Is it fair to expect the Miami offense in its first game against an ACC school, to go on the road and put 30, 40 points up, which might be what it takes to win that game. So we'll see.
Gary, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll do it again next week.
Alrighty, Greg. A pleasure to be back on the air with you.
Absolutely.